Good morning and welcome. Happy Sunday. This is your early morning intuitive guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum, here with some words of wisdom to start your day off well, give you something to think about, hopefully to have a conversation with someone you know about. Excuse me, my frog is back. So how y'all doing? How's your day? We're going to give it a few minutes here for folks to pop on. I have an awesome section to read today. Good morning, Barb. You're the first one here today. Welcome. Happy Sunday. I have an awesome section to read today in Taking the War Out of Our Words. I love this book. Good morning, Beth. Good morning, Gwen. Welcome. Everybody's starting to roll in. This is good. I had trouble rolling out this morning. Yesterday was a very physically involved day. Let's put it that way. I had done some cleaning in the morning and then walked a mile down to the No Kings March, walked the march itself, and then walked a mile home. And by the time I was done, my hips and knees were saying, "Lady, you are crazy." So yes, today's supposed to be beautiful here. So I'm looking forward, maybe doing some park time. We'll see how the day unfolds. But hope you all are off to a good start on this fine Sunday. And this section of the book that we're going to read is basically about speaking your truth, even when you don't have any hope that you're going to be heard. Do it anyway. So let us begin with some tapping and some breath. Breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Oh, that feels good. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Good morning, Joe Neal. Glad you're here. We're doing some taking the war out of our words today. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose. Hold at the top. Out through the mouth. And all of a sudden we popped from 6 people, or from 3 people to 6 people. I like how that goes. Now we're back to 3. This is interesting. Let's pop back to 6. That was fun. Because I'd love to get this word out to more people. There's so many of us struggling with this kind of stuff, and we needn't be. We needn't be. If we can be encouraged that speaking our truth, regardless of whether or not anyone chooses to hear us, the world's going to be a better place. Because when we stay silent, oftentimes it's like tacit approval for whatever's going on, and it sits within us and it festers. And a lot of times, many of us have been trained in that go along to get along thing. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. Well, nice. And what does nice constitute? Going along to get along. Whatever the theme was that offended you, letting that be the case, right? So, for those of you who haven't seen this marvelous book, Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication by Sharon Ellison. This book is fabulous, and it was a labor of love for her to write it. And her daughter says that this is her sister, because that's how much time and heart space this book took for Sharon Ellison to write it. And even though the book was published in, let me go back and look here, 1998, and another publication in 2002, but 1998, this information stands the test of time, and maybe even more relevant right now than it was when it was first published. So for those of you who have the book, we're on page 134. It's in the section called The Statement. And she has sections where she's talking about statements and how to make them effectively, questions, how to use those effectively, predictions, how do you do, not making them a threat, but a clear statement of if something occurs, how you're going to react. So I found this section that I'm going to read you all the more poignant given what's going on right now. Listen to where, as I'm describing this first story, listen to where this young woman is from. So Let's take a breath. Let it go. When we express ourselves thoroughly without trying to convince the other person to listen to us, we can effect long-lasting changes, including long-lasting changes we didn't believe possible. After a speech I had given, excuse me, a woman approached and introduced herself as Raisa. She was a psychologist who had been trained in the United States as a young woman, living here for 20 years before returning to her native Iran. While you were speaking, I had a rush of memories, she said. I'd like to talk with you about them. She told me about a conversation she had had with her brother when she was 10 and he was 9. She described how he used to chase her and hit her, and how she would chase him and fight back in response. One day, when he was about to hit her, she said to him, I don't like it when you hit me. It's not in my nature. And I don't like for you to hit me, and I don't like to hit you. She repeated the 3 sentences to me carefully, softly, and firmly, pausing in between as I imagined she did when she spoke the words as a child. Raisa then said, he never hit me again. Not once during the whole time we were growing up. When I heard you today, I realized I had made a non-defensive statement. I hadn't tried to convince him to agree or threaten him with anything. I just told him how I felt about our hitting each other. I just thought that was so powerful. Even though she didn't expect him to change his behavior, she said it anyway, in a non-defensive, non-threatening way. How awesome is that? How much would we love to be able to emulate that? We can. Whenever we add extra force to our words, I'm one of those. I will make it intense because I want to make sure you're hearing me. And then everybody says, stop yelling at me. People misperceive intensity as yelling. And sometimes when we get quieter, it actually has more impact. Whenever we add extra force to our words, presenting them as truth and trying to compel others to agree with us, we usually meet with a great deal of resistance. And good morning, Nancy. Glad you're here. Welcome. And notice how what happens then is the focus veers off on how I presented the information, not the information itself. So we lose the story because of the presentation. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? It is hard for us to realize how much effect our words can have when we let them stand on their own, when we let them convey the inherent power of our personal message. A thorough statement can become a story within itself that moves others to respond sincerely. The Greek sophist Gorgias, that's what it looks like, said that logos, the word with the smallest and most invisible body, accomplishes the most godlike works. It can banish fear and remove grief, instill pleasure, and enhance pity. I agree with him. I think we have barely tapped into the true power of our expression because we have stayed tied to a tradition that prescribes objective statements over subjective ones and persuasion over openness and vulnerability. That's powerful stuff, folks. That's powerful stuff. So there's some mental preparation questions to ask ourselves here. There are 4 of them, and I'd like us to consider them, but I'd like us to consider them in context. So I would like you to think about a situation where you'd really, really, really like to say something, but you don't feel like you'll be heard. You feel like what might come back is resistance or negativity or conflict. Pick one of those situations in your life. We all have them, right? We all have them. And I want you to go through this mental preparation with me, these 4 points. So first, let's take a breath. Let it go. and there are 8 of you on here right now watching live, and I know there will be more over the course of time. That would be with your daughter. Fabulous. There's a good one. That's great. All right. Who will you pick? What situation will you pick? What circumstance? And if you're thinking, well, right now in my life, everything's going pretty swimmingly, pick one from the past. Maybe pick one about which you have regrets, something that didn't go the way you had hoped it would go, where you didn't speak your truth. And here's our mental preparation. So, first question, am I willing to speak about my own viewpoint and experience without generally applying it to everyone? I had one of those yesterday where I almost bolstered what I said by saying, most of my friends agree. I didn't need to do that. I didn't need to bolster my opinion with the fact that there were people who agreed with me. The fact that it's my opinion is good enough, is good enough. And if they hear it, they hear it. If they don't, they don't. If they react negatively, that is their choice. I then get to decide how I'm going to respond to that negativity. So, am I willing to speak about my own viewpoint and experience without generally applying it to everyone? Second one, can I express myself without trying to convince anyone else to agree? When we get very vehement, very forceful with our words, oftentimes, oh, my blanket is deteriorating. Sorry, squirrel. Oftentimes, it's because we are trying to make a point or be sure that they get it. That's not our job. That's not our job. Our job, our part of this interaction, which may be just a one-shot deal. It may be you just saying what you need to say with no response forthcoming from the other. Might be the click buzz on the end of the phone. Who knows? But when we come at it from, it is my duty to express myself. It's not my duty to convince the other person. It's not my duty to have them understand where I'm coming from. It's merely my duty to speak my truth. Can I express myself without trying to convince anyone else to agree? Third one, can I recognize another person's experience as providing equally important information? Can I recognize another person's experience as providing equally important information? How wound up do we get trying to make our point and in the process never hear their point? And some of you may be saying, yeah, but they don't listen to me, so why should I listen to them? I get it. I totally get it. But make the goal that you're going to hear them and that you're going to speak your truth. And if it's heard, fabulous. And if it's not, you've planted a seed. You planted a seed. And you never know when they might come back and say, you know, I've been thinking about what you said the other day. And how awesome is that? How awesome is that? But think about it as planting seeds and think about it as your job is to speak your truth and to truly listen to their truth. And Jonelle and I have talked about this multiple times, that oftentimes those truths are not that far apart. They're not that far apart. What we're saying, how we get to that truth may be seemingly different, but the truth itself may actually be very similar. Last question. Is my statement, that statement I'm going to make to convey what I believe, is it open? Is it vulnerable? Is it subjective? It's my words. Is it subjective and is it descriptive? Does it say enough? Oftentimes with my sister, the one sister, when she says something, I have to ask more questions because it isn't descriptive. There's pieces where I don't know, well, does she mean this or does she mean that? Or is it about this or is it about that? And I then have to ask because it's not clear enough. And I know a piece of that is because she's thinking I'm going to retort, not respond, retort. We had one yesterday. Something happened with dad, and she was hesitant to talk about it because she felt like from one sister, all she was going to get was advice. She felt like from me that there was going to be judgment about what she did and how she did it. And I'm like, no, Vic, this is the nature of this beast right now. And um, yes, exactly. And that's a piece when I was working with young children and their parents. It was when I was in graduate school, and one of the professors was doing work in parent-child communication, and so several of us were pulled into his work, and we did work with parents and young kids, like 3, 4, 5 year olds. And the way we did the work was the parent had a bug in their ear, and we were on the other side of a one-way glass. And as they were interacting with their child, playing on the floor, we were giving them suggestions as to how to respond to what was going on. One of the goals was avoid questions, because it can become an interrogation really easily. So what do you do instead? Descriptions. Descriptions. So with the child, I'm just going to make this up and then we'll talk about the adults. But with a child, it would be you're picking up the blue block. You're turning it around in your hands. You're looking up at me. You're putting the blue block on the yellow block. Now you have the red block in your hand. It's just description. And one of the gifts that offers parents is when your child is in that stage of mom, 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 look at me, look at me, look at me. And it's exhausting. When you get facile with making descriptive statements, you can maintain your child for a long time. So you're busy doing something. Let's say you're cooking dinner. You're busy doing something. The child is playing nearby. You glance over and you go, oh, that one fell over. You make commentary about what you're noticing, and they realize you're paying attention to them. And then there's less of that mom, mom, mom stuff that drove us up the wall, across the ceiling, and down the other side. Okay. Same for grandkids. Same for grandkids. Most of us are in the grandkid era. In terms of adults, you can still do some of the same kind of thing. So let's say I'm going to go back to Raisa here. And if she said to her brother the three statements, let me find them. I don't like it when you hit me. It is not in my nature. I don't like for you to hit me, and I don't like to hit you. Leave that sit. Let's say he goes, she could describe that. I see you're sitting back with your arms crossed. Mere description. Mere description. He then decides how he's going to respond to that. She could say, I see your eyebrows are up. Just description. And the tone, our inflection is very important. Be as neutral as you can be. Yes, yes. And it's difficult. That's our biggest practice point. Practice in front of the mirror. So let's say Easter's coming and Uncle Charlie's going to be there and he's going to start spouting off about political stuff, and your hair's going to curl and your nails are going to curl and your feet are going to tighten up in your shoes. Practice in front of the mirror. I would really like it if we didn't have political conversation at Easter. Say it. It's your statement. He may plow right over you. Someone else may pipe up and say, well, I really was looking forward to bantering with Uncle Charlie about this. What would be a reasonable statement then? I'd appreciate it if you two would go in the living room and have your conversation. Enjoy your conversation. I'd rather not hear it. Put it out there. State your piece. Again, it may be heard, it may be not heard. It doesn't matter really. Because you put it out there, you then get to take good care of yourself. So if they continue to go at it at the table, you may take your plate and go into the kitchen instead of the dining room. You have options. You get to choose. And That again, that piece of I have to be nice, don't let that get in your way. Do what's right for you. You may find that others join you in the kitchen. Speak your truth. Speak your truth kindly, lovingly. If you feel like you're struggling with the defensive piece of it, you could even preface with that. I want to say this, and I want to say this as neutrally as possible, but I'm feeling a little bit defensive. So bear with me here. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, couch it in terms. That vulnerability piece, what happens if it's just avoidance? Then allow it to be. Allow it to be avoidance. You've planted a seed. And oftentimes seeds take time to come up. One of the things that I've found is because we oftentimes keep our mouths shut, people continue to do poor behavior. Why? Because they know we're not going to call them out on it. They know it irritates us, but we know that they know we're not going to call them out on it, especially in front of other people. But if we speak our truth, that's really uncomfortable for me. Stand there. Count in your head. Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2, Mississippi 3. Keeping your face as neutral as possible, keeping your words as neutral as possible. They may stomp off. They may blow you off. They may counter vehemently. Whatever they're going to do is not your problem. Your focus is merely saying what you need to say as neutrally as possible. And again, it's not easy, but we're practicing here. What happens when we practice? If we practice an instrument, practice driving, practice tying our shoes, we screw stuff up, right? Our job then is to learn from that. Well, that didn't go very well. What could I have done differently? How could I have changed what I did? Yeah, I could have shut my mouth, but that really doesn't serve me and it really doesn't serve others. I need to say what I need to say. Sometimes that will change. So like Uncle Charlie, if we say, I'm really uncomfortable with this conversation, I'd rather we not talk about it at Easter. Calling it out may be enough for Uncle Charlie to say, he might say something like, oh, you're such a lightweight, whatever, but he may shut his mouth. He may. The point is not the outcome. The point is us taking the war out of our words. That's the point. That's our practice. That's our practice. So think about some things. Put some things in the feed. If I said this, I think this would happen. I can give you feedback on that. Again, we have these mental preparation questions that can help us with this. Am I willing to speak about my own viewpoint and experience without generally applying it to everyone? Can I express myself without trying to convince anyone else to agree? Boy, that one's a hard one. Can I recognize another person's experience as providing equally important information? Is my statement open, vulnerable, subjective, descriptive? Subjective because it's ours. And in owning it as ours, it allows them to have their own perspective as well. Entirely different from ours, perhaps. Perhaps. So mess around with this stuff. If you haven't ever gotten this book, it is like a Bible. It is so helpful. And for those of you who maybe it's out of print, I don't know. Thriftbooks.com. Fabulous. Fabulous. You can get books for free as you earn points. You can get them shipped for free by buying a certain amount. Wonderful stuff. You can get yourself on a wait list where they will notify you when a particular book you're looking for comes up. I have vastly overutilized thrift books. Love that book. Yes, it's so helpful. It's so helpful. And especially that part about being vulnerable. We've all been trained not to be vulnerable. Sticks and stones may break my bones. From little on, we're trained. No, sometimes it's valuable to let someone know that something that was said was hurtful. Sometimes it's helpful to let someone know that we've been struggling with something. There's value in that. There's value in that. Have an awesome Sunday. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you are capable of far more than you think you are. Bye to all.